You ready, Jim?
I'm ready. First lecture for the PermaCube revolution. Let's change the world. Let's do it.
All right, we're good.
So, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Jimpgale, and I'm an entrepreneur turned ecopreneur. Entrepreneur, I used to really focus on business to make money, and over the last 10 or 11 years, I've focused on businesses that benefit the world, and they also have to be sustainable financially. So, like Elon Musk, if you've heard of him, he's, in my opinion, he's a little bit of an ecopreneur. He's doing a business that's making billions of dollars, supporting a lot of people, and benefiting the world greatly. So a little bit about me. As I mentioned, I'm an optimist, and I want to tell a little bit about my history so that you get an idea of where I'm coming from and why I'm so passionate about where we're going. The most important day of my life was when my college wrestling coach gave me a sheet of paper, and it said goals on it, and he wanted me to write down my long-term, short-term, and intermediate goals. And at the time, I was a horrible student. If they had labels back then, like ADD, I would have been labeled ADD, and they would have given me drugs to fix me, right? I don't believe in any of those things, but that's another story. So my college coach gave me gave everybody this piece of paper saying goals. Write your goals down. And I was a little bit annoyed, but I thought, okay, I'm going to get this done. It's for wrestling, and that's why I got through school. And on a Friday night, I put it on my desk. I was a major procrastinator back then. On Sunday night, I got it because I had to have it in by Monday morning. So I started reading this, and I started projecting. For the first time in my life, I projected a future for myself. I thought about myself in a future in a way that inspired me and compelled me to action. So I wrote down that I wanted to be a 3-time All-American and national wrestling champion, which was really funny to my wrestling coach, because in high school, I didn't place. And state champions were normal in a college wrestling room. So I handed him this thing, and he sat back and he smiled, and I could read his mind because it was very obvious he didn't believe what I had written. But after I had wrote it, I spent a few hours getting into this idea that I can do something better with my life than I had ever done. And I said, Coach, I know what you're thinking, I can do it. 4 years later, I was a 4-time All-American, national champ, Hall of Fame inductee, and so on. And I'm not bragging. This isn't about me. It's about the goals. It's about, do you have something in your future that you're compelled by, that gets you out of bed in the morning, that makes you excited to be alive? And if you don't, it doesn't matter what age you are. Nothing matters except for having that vision. As far as who you are, where you come from, none of that matters. It matters is what you can conceive and believe in your head you can achieve. So after college, I moved to Hawaii. I lived there for 4 years, had a blast, owned part of a brew pub, a lot of stories around that. Again, people saying you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't know why, but I never believed them. I always believed that I could do anything I set my mind to after that experience with goals. So I moved, after Hawaii, I went to Africa, and I lived with the Maasai. And that, my friends, was the most surreal and incredibly paradigm-shattering experience of my life. Because before that, I had grown up in Minnesota, and I was surrounded by all the same types of people with all the same types of thinking. And so when I was living with the Maasai, I learned that people all around the world, no matter where you are, we all have the same basic human needs. You know, like Tony Robbins. Thank you. Tony Robbins, by the way, if you know, anybody know who Tony Robbins is? He talks about the 6 basic human needs, and he nails it. If you want to learn some very foundational stuff about how to, just great stuff about life, look up the 6 basic human needs. Everybody needs a little bit of certainty. Everybody needs a little bit of uncertainty. Everybody wants love, and they need to contribute in different ways. And that's what creates a fulfilling life. So I spent time with these amazing folks. They were smiles from ear to ear. They didn't have a rush to do anything. They just lived. And for the most part, they lived a low carbon footprint, very sustainable lifestyle. So when I was there, I had already been kind of associated with goals, and I'd started to use these goals more and more in my life. And so I was broke, by the way. After I left Hawaii, I had just enough money to travel a backpacker trip around the world for a year and stay in hostels that made it cost me $5 a night, $2 a night. I'd look for the cheapest thing. When I was in Singapore, I had to stay in the park because I was too broke, and the hotels there, the cheapest thing was $50 a night. So I had this experience traveling around the world, almost broke, and you really get to know a lot about people at that point. But while I was traveling, I was going to places and going to colleges like this. In fact, I lived for 4 months in Australia, in Surfers Paradise, Australia, and I went to Bond University. I walked into the college. I walked up. I said, "Where's the library?" I walked up, and at the time, this is back about 16, 17 years ago, they had these old computers, which were new back then, but they're really old now. And there was only 2 of them, and I confiscated one of those for 4 months. I sat there every day, and I listened to Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. I listened to a guy named Dennis Waitley. If you haven't heard of him, this guy is the most amazing educational speaker that I've ever heard. And this is the part where my life transformed. I really realized that I could really do anything. I hadn't heard of these concepts in school, and I wondered why. So anyway, I wrote this goal, and at the time I was broke, so I wanted money. So I wrote the goal, I wanted to have $3 million in 3 years. And I got home, and my 2 roommates were engineers. They had just gotten through 6 years of school. And I don't know if you've met people like this, and most everybody has. They were so mad at me when I talked about my goals because they were following this traditional path of you got to do this and this and this and this and this, and then after you're working for a company for 20, 30 years, you'll be able to retire and everything is great, right? Well, when I told them that I was going to start a company, and they're like, "Jim, you've got bartending experience and you've got a teaching degree. What are you talking about?" They actually got mad at me. They were pissed off that I had such lofty expectations of myself, and they thought it was their job to tell me how crazy I was. So again, it's not about that. It's about having a vision that gets you moving in the morning. So 3 years later, my mortgage company did $1.3 billion in residential loans, and my net worth went from 0 to, I don't know, about $10 million. And that was my goal at the time. Next, please. So I got bored with mortgages. Has anybody seen the show The Big Short? Pretty scary, isn't it? Epic. I've watched it like 3.5 times because I keep trying to get my friends to watch it, because very few people believe how our system works, how corrupt it is, or inefficient. There's different words to use, but how messed up it is systemically. It is from every level. And as a mortgage guy, I understand this because the bank people would come in and they would say, "Here's how to do a loan. You don't have to write any income. You don't have to prove any assets. All you have to do is ask them what they say they're making, and then you have to write that down, and then you have to sign the piece of paper." Right? That's completely fraud. And of course, the real estate market crashed right after that. Why? Because it's unsustainable. When people are given things that they're not able to manage, it always collapses. It doesn't work long term. So after living on a boat for a year here in the Bahamas, different places, I was bored. I wanted to do something else with my life, and I was reading a lot more about what was going on in the world. And I was starting to feel like I want to be part of the solution. You know, I don't just want to have this money wheel. I want to think, what can I do to really affect people's lives? So I moved to Costa Rica, which at the time, it's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. It was called the happiest country in the world by the Happy Planet Index. It's a tiny little country, and I've been a nature boy my whole life. I used to be teased when I was in 7th and 8th grade because I'd rather play with frogs. You know, I was one of those nerds. It was great. But not all the time, you know, because anybody who's out there on the fringe always has that little bit of teasing, right? Because you're not right following along the status quo. Status quo is getting us where we don't want to go. We have to break the mold. We have to change and reverse trends. In some cases, 100-year-old trends that are bringing us the wrong direction. like centralization of all of our primary processes. So I went to Costa Rica, and thinking big, I said, I want to create the most amazing community in the world. You know, and again, people were like, are you crazy? In fact, they said to me, I had friends come up that I brought from Minnesota, and they said, are you effing crazy? This is in the middle of nowhere. This is 2000, I got there 2005, 6, and for the first couple years I just did standard little stuff. But then when I decided to do this community, people said I was nuts because they were used to the traditional development. The development where you do the normal roads, you know, you're not allowed to have gardens in your front yard, all the traditional stuff, and anything that was outside of their box of reality, well, they thought that's not going to work, right? Well, we planted 4,000 fruit trees. We planted edible landscapes everywhere. We planted and created food forests. And this is my biggest passion, is food everywhere. There's no reason why any tree planted from now on shouldn't be a fruit tree or something that benefits a fruit tree, at least in areas where there are people, right? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of benefit to a lot of the indigenous species, but I'm talking about we need to take food production and we need to take control of it again. So the community, not only did we have all the food and all the water that the whole community needed to survive and thrive, but we had an animal rescue center. I'm big into animals. So every day I got to go out, and you can't really see this picture very well because of the lights, but that's a kinkajou. And then these are white-faced monkeys, and these are my daughters. That's my motivation right there. That gets kind of emotional because I wish I didn't know what I know, but I think that we're screwed unless we make changes fast. So let's go ahead. So now this is where the government comes in. This is the start of learning how the system really works. Thank you very much. A politician came up. He was the governor of the province that Osa Mountain Village was created in, which was, by the way, it was written up in the New York Times. Pretty neat little community. And the governor came in, and he said, Jim, I have a campaign to run, and I need money. And so when a guy who has the power to shut you down says, I need money, even with a smile on his face, it's kind of scary. You know? And I thought, you know what? We're doing an orphanage over here, and that's where we give her money, but I also want to support you because you're a great guy, and you know what I'm saying? And so let me think about it, and I'll get back to you tomorrow. So I thought about it, and I thought, gosh, how can we do something that benefits everybody, that benefits the governor, and that's something that I can feel good about doing? And so we decided, I had this idea, why don't we give him free publicity by taking our whole community? We had about 35 people living there at the time. Let's go down to the local municipality with fruit trees, and let's plant 150 fruit trees on community land. And let's call the news media and get them to show up and do news and say, look at what the governor's doing for us. This is going to benefit our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren and their grandchildren. For generations to come, people are going to have a variety of food everywhere. And so I pitched it to him. I said, here's what we'd like to do. And we will get the news there. And we did, and it worked. And I wish I had better pictures. But we had 4 national news stations come in and do interviews on him and thanking him for doing something so awesome. So that's a win-win. That's the type of win-win that we can start promoting. You know, in your community, could you do this? Could you ask your local community managers, politicians, say, hey, how about this? You know, I'll get you some free press, and guess what? The media will run out with the cameras to film this stuff because it's real. So this is the kind of trend at the PermaCube, which we're going to get into. This is the kind of trend that we have to see. We have to see people bragging about their own food production, and people then showing how the benefits, how they're making money, and all these other values that come along with it. So self-reliance, why should we care? A neat little story. In the background, these are food baskets. And the community members at the community, they wanted the food delivered. Now, the food is literally outside their front door anybody could walk 200 meters, 200 yards, and you could be full. There's food everywhere. And yet, they wanted it to be delivered. And we had a vote on it. I lost the vote. I said, no way do we want to pay somebody to come in here and harvest the food and put it in a basket for us and deliver it. But again, it goes down to, thanks, buddy. It comes down to glory is fleeting and all governments fail. In the history of the world, all governments, 100% of governments fail. And I don't want to sound scary, but at the same time, I want to motivate you to realize that to put your primary necessities in the hands of other people is really not a smart idea. To think about it, and when you learn how easy it is to create your own food, to harvest and purify your own water, and it makes sense in every way. In fact, there's a lot of countries who have not done it right, like ours. Cuba, for instance. Cuba was counting on the Soviet Union. They were paying them money every month, sending them food. The people of Cuba were counting on the government for their primary sustenance, for their food. Right? Well, what happened when the Soviet Union collapsed? Boom, there goes the food, and people were starving. Now, the interesting thing is Cuba has since become a world leader in sustainable agriculture from the ground up at the local level. Why? Because of necessity. They went through a horrible period of time, and now they're doing relatively well. Venezuela. Now, just a few months back, people broke into the zoo in Venezuela, and they actually ate some of the animals. They killed and ate hundreds of thousands of dollars of value black stallion. Now, that's how hungry the people are. They're eating dogs in the streets. They're eating cats. They're eating pigeons, whatever they can eat. They're starting now out of necessity to harvest water and to grow food. But they counted on the government, and that didn't work out for them. Greece, same thing. New York Times, the poor people without a lot are getting hit the hardest. And guess what? And think about this. I mean, a lot of you are students. I'm so glad you're here. And a lot of you have kids. If your kids are hungry, you're going to find them some food. That gets kind of scary. Could it happen to the U.S., to us? And, I'd like to say no way because of normalcy bias. Anybody know what normalcy bias is? There you go. It's kind of self-explanatory, right? People have the bias to believe that the way it is today is going to be the way it is tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Unfortunately, I need a sip of water. What they forget is history, or what they don't know is history. When you take out normalcy and take it over time, then you realize that there's always transition. There's always ups and downs, ebbs and flows. There's always collapse and rebuild. And when does collapse happen? Well, in the Dust Bowl, World War I, they had victory gardens. In World War II, they had liberty gardens. Why did they promote that stuff? They promoted that stuff because the systems were failing during those times, because our resources were going to wars. Right? What are our resources going to right now? What's our number one expense? Wars. How is this population getting along compared to the last 150 years? We're doing worse. We're more polarized as a United States community than we've been in 150 years since the Civil War. Alan Greenspan. Now, some people think he's a real smart guy. Others think he's the cause of the crash. Doesn't matter. Or maybe it does, but that's not the point here. The point here is there's a lot of people who think that the system is fragile and could crash. Now, this is really interesting. If ever again our nation stumbles upon unfunded paper, it shall surely be the death of our body politic. This country will crash. Now that, any historians here, that was in the 1700s. Now since then, the money already did crash once. Does anybody know that story 100 years later? Yeah, the Confederate money. It went up, it was based on confidence, it was based on trust in government. And it failed and it went bye-bye. People don't hear that story very much because they don't really study history. So it's already happened since he said that. I think that's interesting. There's only one way out of this mess. We are running out of time. We have to take responsibility as individuals and families. We have to grow our own food. At the end of the day, this is what is to me the most important thing for so many reasons. On every level, if we do this, it'll save our ecology, it'll save the amount of forests that are being destroyed. I grew up in Minnesota, and I once read that the average food during the winter comes from 1,500 miles away. Now, 1,500 miles, think of the transport costs that come out of that. That's just, it's not needed, especially with the technologies nowadays, and they're not taught in school, but we're going to get into that. This is one of my heroes. Anybody know Bill Mollison? Well, you can read that. This guy is amazing.
Can you read it, please?
Yes, I can. The greatest change we need to make is from consumption to production. Even if on a small scale in our own gardens, if only 10% of us do this, there is enough for everyone. Hence the futility of revolutionaries who have no gardens, who depend on the very system they attack. Now that is interesting, if you understand from my perspective, and who produce words and bullets, not food and shelter. Now let's start getting into some good stuff. That's all some scary stuff, right? It's no fun to think about the fact that we're fragile and that we might miss meals. But here's the neat thing. Though the problems of the world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. To me, that makes me feel really good because the solutions are out there for everybody. And how long does it take? Bill Mollison once said, he said it takes an hour to teach somebody how to plant seeds. It takes another hour to actually plant those seeds. And after the food gets grown, you've got 6 months worth of food. That's a couple hours. You've got 6 months worth of food. And he's the #1 gardener in the history of the world, I think, or at least in recent history. The PermaCube revolution is about solutions. And I'm going to get into what we're doing now and why we're doing it. The PermaCube is the most efficient and diversified food, water, and energy production system ever assembled. And it can do everything from produce food for the food, it produces compost, it produces 3 types of energy, and it has all sorts of we stack systems. And in permaculture, stacking is very important. You have to layer and diversify your food production systems. That way, if something goes wrong with one system, you've got a backup and a backup and a backup. Diversity is the answer to all the problems. That's why we're, again, in big trouble, because the monocrops, the crops were back, in the Great Depression. I once read that 91% of people were involved in their own food production. They had a little garden or they were farmers of some kind, right? Nowadays, what is the percentage? How many people are involved in their own food production? I bet it's under 5%. What was that?
Less than 1%?
Yeah, I actually think that, but I haven't fact checked that, so I bet it's less than 5. So in the Great Depression and during these world wars, if people were starving at that time, and most people actually knew how to grow food, what's coming? If we have another event. All the signs are pointing to it, folks. And history dictates that it for sure will happen. What happened tomorrow or 50 years from now? Nobody knows. But the good thing is there's so many reasons to create your own food that it doesn't have to be about fear or worry. It can be just about finances. It can be about health. So this is our first PermaCube. This picture is from yesterday. I just moved back from Costa Rica about a month and a half ago. And we've built all these systems in Costa Rica. In fact, I took a shipping container and turned it into a large-scale off-grid food dehydrating system. And think about what we could do if we could dehydrate food. Do you know, I read one time that 40% of the produce purchased by people intending to eat it, I'm not talking about the stuff that goes right on the ground, but 40% of the produce that's actually bought gets thrown away. I know the owner of a Publix, and he said that's unbelievable how much. He says it's just sickening how much they throw away. So imagine this. You take those bananas, which when they're yellow, they're full price. when they get brown dots on them, they immediately go down 90% for about a day or half a day, and then they get thrown in the garbage. Those bananas, when they're brown, they could be another day or two later. You put them into a dehydrator, and they're absolutely awesome for 2 to 5 years. They're an amazing snack with all the nutrition still packed in there. So we don't have to waste any of that food. The solution is ridiculously simple and ridiculously easy. Now, why isn't it out there everywhere? Because nobody sold the idea. Nobody promoted the idea in a way that compelled other people to jump on board, other than people who just cared about the environment so much that they were willing to take action and lose money. But let's flip that around. Let's start finding a way where people can actually make money like Elon Musk while they're helping massively. So that's other. So the mission of the PermaCube to promote self-reliance by providing the education and the tools that will empower and inspire individuals and families and communities to confidently create their own abundance. Global food security for our grandkids and beyond. That's our vision. And what does it take to do that? It takes marketing. It takes a group of people. It takes everybody showing from every different perspective. Because here's the deal. There are a lot of people who think that global warming is going to be the end of the earth or climate change. There are a lot of people who laugh at that and say that's a myth and it's BS to make money. Right? We have to work with everybody here. So the people who believe one thing, we have to actually engage them in their conversation. This product takes away the carbon footprint from thousands of miles of transport. It takes away the destruction. It is so beneficial in every way. Now, you've got to go to the other side, because when you talk in that way to a certain group of people, they'll be like, I'm not hearing it, right? Won't they? And this is where we're missing out today. Our community is so polarized because we watch the mainstream media, and I won't go into all that, but we have to start at least getting rapport and being aware of the other person's argument. That way we can influence them better to do something that is more beneficial. So the other argument is this is liberty, this is sovereignty, this is freedom. This providing your own food and catching and purifying your own water gives you self-reliance. So everybody can get behind that topic, right? Especially now with technology. Hydroponics is so simple and easy. In fact, jump on to the next one. Those are some of our grow towers, by the way. But this one, we planted this, and 28 days later, it looked like that. And you know how much work that took? Nothing. I mean, yes, I went to a class, and I spent about an hour listening to people talk. I've got a little thing that says if it gets this kind of thing, you add this. If it gets this, you add, apple cider vinegar, and so on. None of that's happened. We did add apple cider or spray some apple cider vinegar on once because we might have had some mold on the strawberries. But other than that, we have done literally nothing but eat food. Organic food produced right in our own driveway. And so then the word expensive. So we have to come at this from two different angles. We have to come at this from people who are tinkerers and handy and crafty, and they want to build their own systems. They sure can. We give away the plans for people who want to do that. They can do it on their own anytime they want. For people who don't want to do that, which is probably 95% of us, you just buy a system. And is it expensive? How many people know what the average return on investment is on an investment? Anybody an idea? What do you think? 7 years? Yeah, 7 years is a typical return on an investment. Some people try to get a lot, more. It's all guessing at that point. But these systems pay themselves off in between 3 months and a year. So as an investment, it makes sense. And the reason I'm talking about investments to some people who don't even like the sound of money, even bringing money into the idea of permaculture might be considered something negative, is because we have to talk to everybody where they live. And for some people, investment is the reason that they're going to become self-reliant. And if that's enough, that's great for me. Like I said, for other people, it'll be a totally different motivation. Now, here's another grow tower. This one costs 30 bucks. 30 bucks and then maybe another 2 hours worth of labor. The plans are online, easy to find. You can create your own grow tower, a soil-based grow tower. Inside these grow towers, they have a tube, 8 to 10 inch tube, that holes are plugged into that, and they secure that to the bottom. They throw their compost in there. So in the center of this system is a composter. And what do we do with compost? Well, we throw the worms in there. The worms then come out of those holes and they go into the soil and they create worm castings. So now you're talking about incredibly rich soil that uses compost, and that system right there it has 50 grow sites. And it costs maybe $100 if you hire somebody else to do the labor. So $100, 50 if you take an average organic head of lettuce. I think it's $3.50. Anybody know what a head of lettuce is now, an organic head of lettuce? About $3. So $3 times 50, and you've got a $150 return on your investment per month, just financial. Now take the health benefits and the benefits of security and the fun. A lot of people use these as bragging rights. Like, look at what I got. You know, that's really cool. So that's what we want to get to. We want to try, and it's not always easy, but we want to try to reach everybody, as many people as we can. It's easy. And we dehydrated, we tried just about everything. You dehydrate kale, you dehydrate just about any fruit or veggie. We never tried watermelon. And that's a simple family size unit. And we're also building those for mass production. So you can either take the plans, build your own, which my dad in fact built one for 20 bucks. He took a clear plastic sheet, a box, he painted it black, and he put the plastic sheet over it, pointed towards the sun, put a tray in there, and he's got a dehydrator. 20 bucks on his own. So just think about how much food you waste, how much fruit and veggies do you throw out? Does your family throw out? Something, for most of us. Well, you take that, you throw it in the dehydrator, and now you store it for years. It takes the water out. So for camping, for trips, just for putting on the shelf for a rainy day, it's a really great tool. Now, you can't really see that all that well, but on the side of this house, this is a passive solar heat collector, which is the same thing as a dehydrator, same tool, same mechanism to collect the heat. That right there can create, according to one gentleman who studied this for about 7 years, in 1 square foot of face of this, it can create enough heat to heat 68 cubic feet indoors. So how many cubic feet, or how many square meters, I'm sorry, 1 square meter, it can do 68 square meters indoors. So how many square meters is that? Maybe 3, 4? So that right there could heat that house up to 68 degrees. And he was living in Montana. So I'm from Minnesota. My point on this is that thing might cost $800, $1,000. How fast does that pay off? Boom! Like in 1 winter, you've got something that's going to last you 25 plus years. In 1 winter, that thing pays off. That's a no-brainer. Why doesn't every house in the north have one of these? You know, because nobody sold it to them. Nobody presented the idea, and it's not the trend. We got to change trends, and this is how we do it. We got to hit them where it counts. Their hearts, their pocketbooks, their minds, everywhere it counts. We got to say, these are ideas, and if you're not doing it, then you're not with the trend. You know, I use everything but force, you know, to try to convince people that this is the right way to go. And I'm a salesperson, and I'm proud of it because I'm proud of what I'm selling. I can't sell anything I'm not proud of. Just a quick side note. When it snows out, that thing gets up to 70% more efficient. Isn't that how is that possible, right? Because the sun hits the snow, bounces up into the system. So in the north, because the sun's at an angle, right? So you got the wall, and then you got the sun bouncing off the snow. So it's even better in the snow. This is a picture of our PermaCube. the rendering before we had the one done, a little bit a lot of the details that we put in. But this system, we go through kind of, I don't know what time it is. Okay, got a little bit of time left. Everybody having fun? Are you learning something? Are you excited? If you feel like yelling at me, throwing something, I'm okay with that. Okay, cool. All right, let's jump on to the next one, buddy. So this is a chicken tractor. Now, I've heard lately that chickens are coming back. People are starting to say yes to chickens again. Now, I live in a community, I'm renting. I just got here, and I'm renting short-term until I can get a little farm. But it's illegal to plant a fruit tree. It's illegal to have a garden where I live. It's illegal to do all this stuff. You definitely can't have chickens. And I live with roosters. I don't want a rooster next door. So I understand the idea that we don't want to, but that idea is kind of real. But the idea that somehow it's an assault on me or my identity or my well-being that somebody has a garden next door or an assault on my property values, we got to reverse that trend. That idea is ridiculous. You know, and we're going to do it. Who wants to do that with us? Awesome. I'm going to give you, let's put a little community together. And let's, 2 or 3 houses, 5 houses, wherever. And let's show the property values go way up because it's got a permaculture food forest in the yard, edible landscapes throughout, water catchment, all that stuff. It's easy to do. It's been done a million times, but we got to do it, we got to study it, we got to show the value, and we got to promote it. And then we got to turn everybody's idea that this is going to bring my property values down. That's got to go out the window. So biofuel. This is pretty cool too. We had a camp where people would come and we would do permaculture classes, and we had an outhouse. And all the human ore from the outhouse went into a biodigester. And we used that methane gas that was created for cooking. Pigs create so much methane. Chickens as well, anything that's decomposing. Depending on what jatropha, there's different kinds of things that produce a ton and some that produce just a little. But decomposing matter produces methane gas. So you can use that methane gas. I just realized I sold your water.
No, that's yours.
Here's your
Oh, thank you. You can use it, and it's a win-win in every way. So for this one, we're actually using compost. I'm friends with the owner of one of the Publix, like I mentioned. And he said, Jim, you can take all of the produce that we throw away. It's an obscene amount. So we're going to take a percentage of that, and we're going to throw it in, and we're going to show people how they can use their own biogas for cooking and heating and other things. Again, okay, so you can, just for a sec, go back. This system, we're going to be selling these, but you can also build one. That cost us, we got the things for free. We just asked around. We got the IBC totes. The whole thing with all the parts and puzzles and stuff was about $100. Now, how fast can that pay back? In so many different ways, pretty fast. Rainwater catchment. Now, I've been told that this is illegal in 11 states.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's illegal to take rain off of your roof and put it in a barrel.
Out west.
Not here.
That gives me chills. Now, and we can't get too deep into the whys, right? Because the whys are pretty freaky. But the bottom line is we got to fight all that stuff as much as we can. And we also have to just take this water and find out how to purify. You know how long it'll take you on YouTube to find out how to do this and how to purify your own stuff? Not very long. And once you get into it, you might actually have fun with it. I know it's been my passion now for 11 years. And it blows me away hearing people like Bill Mollison talk when he talks about the different things that have been invented and that are now basically gone. Anybody heard of a trompe? This is, you heard of a trompe, huh? A trompe, this is so amazing. It's a system whereby water flows through a stream or a river, and you take a pipe and little holes in the pipe, and that pipe goes down. And he had one going down a couple 100 feet, going straight down. And when water comes by and it goes into that pipe in the hole, with the holes, it brings oxygen with it. The water falls faster than the oxygen goes up. So then it goes down, it hits the bottom, and it goes around into a holding tank. And what does that create? Pressure. So you've got compressed air for free all day long. And what is the what is compressed air when you let it out? What does it create? Cold. So you can use those things. So it actually creates a refrigerator effect. So they had compressed air cars going all over Melbourne, Australia for years. And these compressed air cars, when you want to double the intensity of compressed air, you just add a little heat to it, right? And all of a sudden it's really compressed. But they had these cars going around with little wicker baskets in the back. And the exhaust, that's where they kept their champagne. That was the cold air. That was their little refrigerator. The exhaust from their car. Church used to use it, and they used to use it to open doors and do all these crazy things. And they didn't want to tell anybody about it because it was a secret. And then who came in and bought up all the patents? You know the answer to that one. Oil companies. They came in and bought up all the patents to the trunk. And they actually went in all the libraries and got rid of all the books on it. There was a magazine called Compressed Air. They got rid of all the evidence. This stuff works. In fact, there are people doing it on small scales today. You can look on YouTube and see this stuff. It's physics. It's not anything weird. It's just pure physics. There are answers to every problem out there. We just got to focus on it, and we got to spread the word about them. Solar panels, that's kind of obvious. We're going to have two versions of the PermaCube, one with and one without solar panels. Solars and batteries, inverters, and all that stuff cost an extra $7,000. So a lot of people would just rather plug it in, or they just go completely off the grid and not have any energy in there. We do want to add music to all of them. We want to change the mainstream. You know, permaculture people, there's already about 8 to 10% of the people who kind of are into this, but those people are already into it. I'm not saying anything new to that group, but I want to get to the mainstream people and touch them where they live and find ways. So we're adding music, we're adding some automation, so it can be even easier, because what Americans hate most is inconvenience. Not us though, right? Soldier fly larvae, another ridiculously simple way to provide food for your chickens and fish, if you like chickens and fish. It's a compost box with some holes in it. The soldier flies come in, lay eggs on the top, the eggs drop down. As they eat, they proliferate, and they actually have this little ramp where they walk up and they fall into a bucket. You take that bucket or that tray, you just pour it in the chickens and fish every day. So free food. And it is protein-packed, wonderful food. Another food is azolla. Azolla is 46% protein, doubles in mass every 5 days or so. And it's ridiculously easy to create azolla. Chickens love it, pigs love it, cattle love it. It's great for soil amendment. People eat it. It's free food for the food. And if you don't have food for the food, well, you're in trouble. You got to have food for the food. So, mason bees, now, and solitary bees in general. The honeybee is what we all think of when we think of pollinators, right? The honeybee is the most obvious choice. But honeybees don't necessarily work a honeybee hive in a greenhouse or right next to a greenhouse. I love honeybees. We had beehives at OSA. They got Africanized within about a year, and they become actually really dangerous in Costa Rica. I've been attacked twice by Africanized bees. And once I was on a boat, tied up. It was pretty freaky. That's a funny story. It's on YouTube. But anyway, these solitary bees, they are 100 times more efficient than honeybees when it comes to pollinating. Because they're just not as neat. Honeybees are very neat. They put all their pollen on their legs and they don't waste any of it. Or a solitary bee comes crashing into the flower and gets pollen all over. That's how they pollinate. So it's a really neat thing. So these hives, you can buy one of those, I think, for $19.95 or something. So if you have a little greenhouse and you want to have extra pollinators, that's a great little thing to have. All right, bat box. So a bat box, bat guano is one of the best fertilizers that you can ever have. It's very nutrient rich. You know, bats eat the mosquitoes and all the different bugs. and their poo is great for your gardens. It's a little bit, you have to dilute it a little bit because it can be a little bit toxic and straight, right? So the bat box we have on the side of PermaCube is for two purposes. One is to collect the nutrients, and the number two is mosquitoes. Bats are the best mosquito repellent there is. And then you add some lemon balm and some different plants around your yard, and you can virtually take care of your mosquito problem. Permaculture taught in schools. The first PermaCube we built about 6 months ago. I just had the idea in February. I spoke about it out loud for the first time February 15th. And since then, I've actually been trying to hold it back a little bit while we get ready for a launch. We've teamed up with a media group who's got 20 Emmys in their group, and they're top 10 in the world in Kickstarter. And so we're going to go hard when we go, and we want to have massive impact. One of the things that's on my list to do, create a nonprofit entity and get these systems in every school in the country. Because one system, kids can learn so many scientific principles, so many permaculture principles, how to dehydrate food, how to grow food, all these different other things that we've all forgotten or not been taught for really decades. My motivation, that's a big one. And I'm not going to start crying again, I promise. But those are my girls. This is one of our goat kennels at the OSA. And that is my motivation. That's what gets me out of bed every morning. I do want to convey that it is important that companies make money to survive or get funding from governments. Well, I don't trust governments, and I don't ever want to count on that. But that's not my primary. My primary motivation is seeing a trend shift. And by the way, this is my first talk on the subject ever. And I hope to have many, many more. If you know anybody who wants to have a talk like this, any other groups that I can talk with, please let me know, because I'd be happy to. We want to spread the word and really make massive global impact. Any questions?
Some of the growing containers that you had, and I think you had one that you said was sitting on a driveway. I'm just, especially if there were some, maybe they could be without glass here or without plastic around them, but I know in Florida, set something on your driveway in glass, you're talking serious scorch. Like, I don't even know if the plant could survive. So like, how does this get adjusted for the levels of Florida sun? Yeah,
well, we don't have glass. It's plastic. It's food grade plastic, and our actual PermaCube has a 75%. It's got a polycarbonate with a 25% filter, and on the sides it's netting, so the airflow can come through there. But you're right. Your question alludes to the fact that every climate is different, and in every climate you have to have different aspects and different things.
Understanding that you're newly relocated and you probably don't have a path yet that we can help you. But what would be a way that we could begin to help you?
God, that's such a beautiful question. Start by connecting on email with me and with our group. Nick Atkinson here is doing a great job. He isn't getting paid. He intends to get paid. A lot, but everybody on our team right now is working on the hopes and the strong desire to make something great. And so anyway, start by connecting with us, and then we will definitely be sending out emails, newsletters, and things like that. And you never know. I mean, there's a lot to do, so we need a lot of help.
Absolutely.
So you had to go ahead.
I have a two-part question. So one, why should we leave Costa Rica? And two, is Osa Mountain still there and operating?
Yes, Osa Mountain's still there and operating. I left Costa Rica, and this is there's a book being written about it, literally. And I don't think anybody will read it, but anyway, this one gal just said, we got to write a book about this. It's so interesting. The government came in, and we were the only thing going. It was 2010. The markets were horrible, and they've only gotten worse. The bureaucracy, the inefficiency, and the corruption. And I think the corruption is literally a small amount, but the inefficiency and bureaucracy have shut down all business. I mean, it's horrible in Costa Rica. I love the place. My wife is from Costa Rica. My daughter's in Costa Rica. but its government got too entrenched, like in Venezuela. You can go into the restaurant right now, and there's like 6, actually I heard 14, but I can't believe that's true, different permits that you have to have a restaurant open. It just stops all business. So that's why I like, what was the other one? I'm sorry.
It goes to
Yes, it's still there, it's beautiful, it's got all the food, you can walk around and it's got waterfalls at 150 feet in the jungle. It's just an amazing place.
Is it a place one can come visit?
Absolutely. Yeah, we got 48 villas there, community center pool, all that stuff.
I noticed you had the picture of the carpenter bee,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So is that another thing that your company's going to be making?
We're probably, in a lot of cases, we're teaming up with other experts. Like Van Powell is the answer for PermaCubes in the north. The Mason Bee lady, I gotta get her name, but we like reaching out to other professionals that have skills. And our whole thing is about networking. Like every PermaCube location is gonna be a location where people can come by and find where to find a permaculture expert in that area, and then they can get a consulting gig for a permaculture group to come in and do edible landscapes in the yard, all that.
Jim, I want to thank you for coming today. I know it was a long drive. And I wanted also just to show off, I guess, a little bit. These are from my yard. I have an edible landscaping company that I've just started. I'm looking for institutions and places interested in training people that I can hire for my edible landscaping company. These are tomatoes that were pulled out. I had to thin them out of my yard because I had really good germination rate. So I just did it this morning. And I don't have anything to people put them in, but I'm going to put them outside there. And on your way out, if you want, you can probably just buy the bottoms, grab one out, stick it in a cup or something like that, take it home and have fun.
That's so cool.
The other thing that I've started, which I think is extremely important, and I'm working on a cooperative basis, is a local seed company. Because we've got to start saving seeds that grow really well in this area. So I want to thank you for coming, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for setting it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, thank you a ton. You got the email was up there and stuff, right? And okay. And I'll stick around for more questions. I do have one meeting afterwards, but I've got another 5 or 10 minutes if anybody wants to chat.
Teachers already have their schedule.
Exactly. That's what they need. They need help actually doing
With
things.
the parents, and so I want to contact with
Jim, this is historic. You're at your first talk.
I know.
This is really good.
I know, it's awesome.
I grew chickens for a living, but when I got too many roosters,
Yeah.
they kicked me out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
The
happens.
cock-a-doodle-doos.
Yeah.
So it's coming. I'll keep in touch through this and see if I can put together something.
And there's a big movement. I own a restaurant here in town, and I can tell you that, sustainable whole foods, clean, fresh, locally produced. It is a movement that is on the grow, and it needs to be. Your statistics about how far our food comes is absolutely correct. All of our little motors.
Yes. Yeah, we met the other day.
Yes, it's me.
Yes, it's you. Nice to see you again. Ready? Wow. Man, was that good or what? Everybody, this is just awesome. All right, which way do we go? We got to cut through there. That's a surprise.
Oh, Grandma's
Isn't that great? Oh, Grandma in a Ferrari. I love that, Granny.